in a cold and mountainous village where it snowed a lot, so that for several months everywhere was covered with snow, and the agricultural and construction work was inevitably closed, and the women and men of the village worked in a walnut processing factory and peeled walnuts. They received a daily amount. In this village there was a woman named Sara who is not alive now, and did not marry after her husband's death, and lived alone in the house that was her husband's inheritance. He had to work for his living. Mrs. Sarah's work was such that she would leave the house early in the morning at 5 o'clock and work in the same place with several other women, but one day their place of work changed. The woman next door makes an appointment with Sara that we will follow you tomorrow at 5 in the morning to go to our new place of work. Sara slept early at night, and he fell into a deep sleep. There was a lot of snow that night. Suddenly there was a knock at the house of Mrs. Sara, and without looking at the clock or measuring the time, Mrs. Sara put on her shawl and hat, put on her gloves, put on her things, and went to the front door to go to work with the neighbor's wife, as she said. When he reached the front door of the house, he saw his colleague. They closed the door, and he started walking behind the neighbor's wife to go to her workplace. Had arrived, Sara had to put her foot in the footsteps of her colleague so as not to lose the way. Mrs. Sara walks a little way in the snow and walks away from the house. She sees nothing but her colleague's footprints. The further she goes, she sees that her colleague's footprints are getting bigger and bigger, so that her colleague's footprints are twice as large as her footprints. It becomes a human being, Mrs. Sara wonders. Little by little, the traces of fear and worry appear on his face. He sees himself in a world that is not like the world of humans. Little by little, illusion, fantasy, and reality are mixed together. He feels that his body has become very cold and his surroundings are filled with scary creatures. When his feet hit the branches under the snow, he felt that there was a creature that wanted to bite his feet. He changes his direction towards home. Some way back, he doesn't see any traces of his and his colleague's footprints. He leaves himself in the hands of an ambiguous fate and takes his scary steps higher to reach home. He walks in a halo of fear of the blackness of the village. And finally, after walking in the snow for a while, he reaches the door of his house, and to his surprise, he sees the neighbor's woman standing in front of the door waiting for him. And when he sees his colleague, he asks himself, "Who was it that came after me?" Again, fear overcomes him. He is afraid and does not approach the woman. The voice of the woman next door brings him to his senses. His colleague looks at his watch and says to Sara, "I have been waiting for you for exactly 15 minutes now. Where have you been? Have you spent the night at your relative's house?" "No, I have been in my own home. So where do you come from now?" Sara told the story to her colleague. His colleague said that I was at home from night to morning at 5 o'clock. His colleague says that you did a good job and came back. That creature was not a human at all, but a genie who disguised himself as me and was taking you with him.